On a cold, snowy Christmas Eve, Good King Wenceslas of Bohemia, known for his piety and compassion, decided to disguise himself as a humble peasant and venture into his kingdom to better understand the needs of his subjects. Clad in a rough woolen cloak and a simple hat, he left the warmth of his castle, accompanied only by his loyal page, whose youthful eagerness matched the king's own sense of duty. Together, they trudged through the bustling streets of Prague, their breath visible in the crisp air, as they listened and observed. The city was alive with the preparations for the Holy Night, yet beneath the veneer of festive cheer, Wenceslas could see the shadows of hardship and want. Their first stop was a small, dilapidated cottage at the edge of the city, where a widow struggled to keep her 3 young children warm. The king, bending low, knocked on the frail door and was welcomed with wary, yet hopeful eyes. They shared a simple meal, and Wenceslas learned that the family had barely enough wood for a fire and no meat to grace their Christmas table. Promising to return, he left a few coins and moved on. Next, he found an elderly man, shivering on a street corner, his clothes threadbare and his hands blue with cold. The king gave him his own gloves and a promise of aid, noting the man's gratitude and dignity despite his dire circumstances. As they wandered further, Wenceslas encountered a young couple expecting their first child, anxiously discussing how they could afford a midwife. The king, feeling their fear and excitement, reassured them with words of comfort and a discreet bag of coins. He saw artisans with no customers, farmers lamenting poor harvests, and merchants who had lost their wares to thieves. Each story etched itself onto his heart, deepening his resolve to bring joy and relief to his people. When the moon reached its zenith, the king and his page returned to the castle, their minds and hearts heavy with the plight of their subjects but also filled with a plan. Christmas morning dawned bright and clear, the sun glistening off the fresh snow as if to herald the day's blessings. Wenceslas, now robed in his royal garments, summoned his advisers and instructed them to prepare gifts and provisions. He ordered warm clothing, food, and wood to be gathered and sent out to the needy. He called for physicians to attend to the sick and midwives to be dispatched to expectant mothers. Artisans received commissions for their crafts, and merchants were reimbursed for their losses. By midday, royal carriages, laden with supplies and accompanied by the king's own knights, set out to distribute the bounty. The widow and her children received enough wood and food to last the winter, the elderly man was given a warm cloak and a place in the palace guardhouse, and the young couple found a midwife at their door with assurances of the king's personal blessing. Throughout the city and countryside, the king's emissaries delivered not just physical goods but also a renewed sense of hope and community. As the day turned to evening, the city of Prague, blanketed in a soft glow from countless fires now burning warmly in homes that had been cold, sang with the sounds of carols and laughter. In the great hall of his castle, King Wenceslas, surrounded by his court, listened to the reports of joy and gratitude pouring in from all corners of his realm. The spirit of Christmas, of giving and compassion, had been made manifest in his actions, and he knew that this day would be remembered not just for the gifts given but for the love and care that underpinned them. Wenceslas retired to his chambers that night with a heart full of contentment, knowing that his kingdom, though still facing many challenges, had been bound closer together by the acts of kindness he had inspired. He resolved to continue this practice every year, believing firmly that the strength of his rule lay in the well-being of his people. Thus, Good King Wenceslas, forevermore remembered in song and story, became a symbol of the true meaning of Christmas, a beacon of hope, charity, and the enduring power of compassion.